and none of us spoke any English, so it was very difficult. But we had to go to school, to a public school, and then learn English, and it was difficult because I picked on a lot. And so I immediately started to have symptoms of depression. And even though I was only there for a year and a half, the depression never went away. And I was about 15, and I started having manic episodes. My siblings started calling me weird because of weird behavior. And I wasn't very extreme manic, but definitely noticeable. And it was, at times, I would be the happiest person ever, and I'd be able to make an entire room full of people laugh for an hour. And then all of a sudden I'd be so depressed or anxious that I couldn't talk to anyone. I didn't want to talk to anyone. And it would be very difficult, and I always thought it was my fault. I always tried to understand, what am I not thinking that I should be thinking in order to control my thoughts. I was finally diagnosed when I was 23. My symptoms had gotten pretty serious, especially anxiety. It got to the point where I had constant headache because the muscles in my neck were so tense that I just couldn't function. And so I had to see a physical therapist. But it didn't, it helped temporarily. And so eventually I saw a doctor, a psychiatrist, and I explained my symptoms to her, and she said, well, I think you have depression and compulsive anxiety. And so she gave me sertraline, which is, I guess, the same thing as Zoloft. And I immediately got manic, very manic, and I hardly slept. But it was great fun. I wasn't depressed anymore. And so when I went back, she said, you have bipolar. And she said, how do you feel about that? And I thought to myself, well, this is exciting, because this means that not only is it not my fault that I'm having these miserable experiences, but also there's a solution to the problem. And so for me, this was exciting. And she put me up.
So why I really included that video is because of the ending, where he says that when he found out that he had manic depression, he was excited because it was no longer his fault. There was some other reason for his depression, and now there was a solution to it. Is there any comments or anything on that video? Anything that you may relate to?
Kind of reminds me of the old saying, the truth sets you free.
Yeah, definitely.
You find out what the problem is, and that's why it's easier to find a solution. So it is.
So another type of depression I had is psychotic depression. It's a person has the symptoms of major depression and with the addition of psychotic symptoms. And according to the National Alliance on the Mental Illness, about 20% of people who have major depression also have psychotic symptoms. These symptoms can range from hallucinations, so hearing or seeing things that aren't there, delusions, false beliefs, and paranoia. I do have an example of what psychotic depression looks like.
Sometimes I think I was going backwards. People I should love and hate. And people I hate. Fishing of the whales. Should try it. I want to go back. I'm so sick. Listen, yeah. Is it accept? Yeah. Mine, Freddie, this is me.
actually reminds me of this character. I think everyone knows this character now, but the Joker from DC. This persona is kind of based on this. He can't go back, and one thing that most people don't know about him is that the Joker used to be someone, a regular, normal person who didn't make a lot of money. His wife was pregnant, mom killed his wife, and a lot of what he was going through was so harsh on him that rather than facing it as his normal self, he ended up becoming the twisted, demented thing you saw, and that pretty much exemplified it too. Because she wanted to go back, couldn't go back, and then just said goodbye to the old her and became this psychotically depressed individual.
Yeah, that's a great example. Anyone else want to say anything? So we have situational depression, and I will say first off that I feel situational depression is the most relevant to college students. I personally dealt with it. So it's not technically a term in psychiatry, but you can have depression when you are having trouble managing life stressors. So for example, a death in your family, a divorce, toxic relationship, you may lose your job, the thought of retirement, things like that. So your doctor may also call this stress response syndrome or adjustment disorder. And if you are diagnosed with mild depression, you may not necessarily need medication. Rather, changes in your lifestyle and behavior therapy can just be enough. But if you are diagnosed with major situational depression, you might need a combination of medication and therapy. So I kind of want to share my experience with situational depression, but kind of before I do that, does anyone else here want to share of what you've dealt with? Is there a period in your life there, like a traumatic event you kind of went through? Yeah.
No, the SAD, the seasonal disorder, when you're diagnosed with that technically be a situational depression, or?
It's different because seasonal is more dependent on like the weather, where situational is more about traumatic events. It doesn't have to be traumatic, but whatever is happening within your life. So it's a little different.
Yeah, here I will just briefly mention Kate. I mean, my personal experience. I believe that moving from one place to another, that would be like kind of situational. And in my own experience, like moving in the U.S. for the first time was kind of like a very difficult situations because first getting here, I was always thinking about like how my lifestyle will be, my African lifestyle, American, so how I'm going to be able to balance those two. So I found myself like, I'm thinking a lot and then I was kind of lost in time. But after like a certain period of time, obviously, I get adapted and, kind of going away. So that I would say that's the experience of the situation.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that the situational then, I was going to say I think that for me, at least a week ago, I might have had like, feeling like that. I was like freaking out when I was looking at me. I wanted to have midterm, or I found out last class I had midterm this year. I feel like my phone, like, I get it. So I think like that might be, is that like more like just like getting in your head or that?
I think maybe that's more like you could have had like a little like
I was like,
panic attack.
like I feel like, yeah, I was like going like out of my mind, like I had to like relax from it.
Yeah.
It's like getting really stressed out. Like I didn't know what to do.
Would situational depression be like if I don't want to go to a certain place because I know it can bring my mood down? Like I used to live with my boyfriend's family, and I would get there and literally like, okay, and walk inside. Like I would be so much happier out on the street than there. Would that be situational depression?
Not necessarily. It's more like an event happens, and because of the event, you're feeling.
Oh yeah, something did happen. Like we had a big argument.
Well, then yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds more like a trigger, and that's very normal when you like see something and just have like a really bad experience with it, and like it triggers all these like negative emotions. It's a trigger. Situational depression is like, it's kind of like if your boyfriend, girlfriend, or whoever breaks up with you like that, and then you get really depressed because of that. Like that is somewhat of situational depression, or like losing a family member, losing a friend, having a family member or friend like get sent to the ER.
Well, would you classify like that big argument as situation? Because
That-
every time I go around them,
Well,
I
if you
feel
felt
feelings.
depressed after, then of course,
I
yeah,
get those feelings every time I go around them. So, yeah, I definitely know that.
I had to. I would say my first year in college was really rough for me. I went from being in high school where I kind of knew everyone and everyone knew me, and being like being in at John Jay, I was on a campus with like thousands of students, and I was just merely just an individual. I wasn't an individual anymore. I was just a speck, and it was really difficult for me because I didn't have a support group anymore. I didn't have friends, and I was in a major that I had certain expectations for, and none of them were met. So I would kind of go home and be just really unhappy with myself. Didn't go home, didn't want to study, didn't want to do anything, didn't want to go out, and I literally just went home, slept, wake up, go to school, couldn't wait to come back home, and went home. And I doubled up my year of my first year of college. So I have dealt with it. And postpartum depression is the birth of a baby can trigger a jumble of powerful emotions from feeling excited and joy to fear and anxiety. But it can also trigger feelings of depression. So postpartum depression involves feeling of extreme sadness, fatigue, loneliness, and helplessness, possible suicidal thoughts, fear about hurting the baby, and feelings of disconnect from the child. There is no single cause for postpartum, but after the child is born, there is a dramatic drop in hormones, especially estrogen and progesterone. Anxiety may contribute to postpartum depression. And according to the Centers for Disease Control, 11 to 12% of women who give birth each year have postpartum, so approximately 600,000 women have or get PPD each year in the United States alone. And premenstrual dysphoric disorder, also known as when depression strikes once a month. So PMDD is a type of depression that affects women during the second half of their menstrual cycle. Symptoms can include depression, anxiety, and mood swings, but it is different from PMS. That's important to note. So PMS affects up to 85% of women and has milder symptoms, while PMDD affects about 5% of women and has much more severe symptoms. I'm going to show you a video that just gives you the differences between PMS and PMDD.
Educational topic number 49, premenstrual syndrome and premenstrual dysphoric disorder. You may remember our friend Aunt Flo, our popular euphemism for menstruation. In this video, we will discuss her daughter, premenstrual. Pre comes to visit during the luteal phase before Aunt Flo, and she can cause significant disruption. The objectives of this video are to identify the criteria for making the diagnosis of PMS and PMDD and to describe treatment options for PMS and PMDD. Premenstrual comes to visit many women before Aunt Flo. Premenstrual symptoms occur in approximately 75 to 85% of women. It causes significant disruption in approximately 5 to 10% of women. We'll start with premenstrual syndrome, or PMS. PMS is a group of physical, mood-related, and behavioral changes that occur in a regular cyclic relationship to the luteal phase of the menstrual cycle and that interfere with some aspect of the patient's life. PMS can be diagnosed if a patient reports at least one of the following symptoms during the 5 days before menses of 3 menstrual cycles: depression, angry outbursts, irritability, anxiety, confusion, social withdrawal, breast tenderness, abdominal bloating, headache, or swelling of extremities. The diagnostic criteria for premenstrual dysphoric disorder, or PMDD, is outlined in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 4th edition. This DSM-4 states that PMDD can be diagnosed if there are a specific set of at least 5 of 11 possible symptoms with at least one core symptom of depressed mood, anxiety or tension, irritability, or a decreased interest in activities or anhedonia. Other possible symptoms include a subjective sense of having difficulty concentrating, lethargy, fatigue, or a marked lack of energy, a marked change in appetite and cravings for certain foods, hypersomnia or insomnia, feeling overwhelmed or out of control, or somatic symptoms such as abdominal bloating, fatigue, and breast tenderness.
So that's just kind of really showing you guys what's the difference
Waheeda for this very rich information regarding the different types of depression and the different causes as well. So now we're gonna like shift the conversation a little bit and talk more about depression, like college student. So and then I'm gonna start by giving you some statistics, which is kind of like surprising because like Susan was mentioning that like depression is that kind of obvious and sometimes we're not aware even within the school environment. So for example, as you may see, there's 86% of college students that have felt overwhelmed. And then 81% of college students have felt exhausted. And 30% of college students has felt too depressed to function. So meaning that they're so depressed that they cannot even like do the schoolwork. They cannot even live their life like properly because it may affect like different aspects of their own life. And 1.6% of college students have seriously considered suicide. And I think that's very serious when it comes to suicide and depression because they feel like every day because the more stressed you are, the most likely you're feeling you're feeling like ending your life. What causes depression among college students actually? But there are many factors that contribute to that, but among them these are the most common causes of depression among college students. Living away from family for the first time. For example, if you just transfer from college to another, so there might be this thing that may happen, and then you feel very depressed, missing family or friends, feeling alone or isolated, experiencing some conflict in the relationship. Susie also mentioned that in this relationship, you're also facing new and sometimes difficult schoolwork. Final or future in that process, and then worrying about how to pay college, how to finance your education. When all those come together, I think it's very difficult for a student to. And then how does depression affect college student? We have some statistics here. It says in 2009, the American College Health Association combined with National College Health Assessment, which is national, a nationwide survey of college students. And the made surveys from 2-year college and to 4-year college, and they found that nearly 30% of college students reported feeling so depressed that they cannot function. And let's go back to the statistics that I mentioned earlier, and then it may affect their academic performance. Some students will just like a drop out because if they feel like they did not have like a necessary help, they don't have any support. They'll be like, okay, let's drop out and that's it. So that's one of the serious effect on students. Students are more likely to smoke because they feel like, okay, smoking will help me out, but at the same time, it's kind of destroy that. Students with depression, especially women, are likely to get drunk and experience some related issues, such as engaging in sex. So yeah, I saw your face feeling like, do you have any comment on that?
I'm kidding. Just because they're saying what I'm like.
Well, this is what the stats show that because they're more likely, to experience that. Depression is measured like a risk factor for suicide. And this is another